Welcome back to Button Down Gaming. My name is Jay, and I'm playing with myself. Alright, so, last time we ran into this sylph person who has a tattoo that I think is similar to ours, if I remember correctly. Oh yeah, because she said, yeah, anyway. Let's try to remember where we've seen the tattoo before. You hear an echo of yourself and see in front of you a strange old man, gnarled by time and rabid with expectation. On his neck, weathered and sagging, you see the same series of vertical lines etched into his skin, a faded map to a time or a place that no longer exists. An inadmissible period of time has elapsed without an answer. Conclusion, I will rephrase the question, she says as the memory fades. How did you come to have those marks upon your skin? The usual way? There are many ways that may be usual. Her throat works for a few moments before she opens her mouth, exhaling a wisp of greenish gas. The purpose is to be enigmatic. Understood. I like her. She regards you, head tilting to the side with a series of small ratcheting noises. You have the absurd impression that the motion is meant to be flirtatious. I hope you will answer another question for me. I have a riddle that it may please you to answer, she says, brushing her hair coquettishly back from her bare shoulders. It is very old. She pauses a moment, then recites from memory. What comes in with breath and out with a word transmutes upon death, but can't be conferred. The words sound vaguely familiar, resonating in your mind even after she stops speaking. In with breath and out with a word transmutes upon death, but can't be conferred. I mean, love sounds good, right? Let's try to remember. See if she'll pause again. The words sound familiar, but something about them is subtly wrong. Just when you think you've grasped the difference, it slips from your mind and you're left with only Sylph's expectant gaze. Consciousness. She tilts her head from side to side as if weighing your answer in each ear. Very good, she says, her neck clicking back to neutral. I have one last question to ask of you. You may not have an answer. She looks beyond you, remaining still for some moments while the gears inside her stomach clatter and whir. Then she meets your gaze again and asks her question. What would you do if you met someone who had succeeded at your life's work before you, and they refused to share their method? Begging, no. Killing, no. Find my own method, no. I would find a new life's work, no. I mean, I guess this is the best. What'd she say? You may not have an answer. I don't know. Then you are a mystery to yourself as well, she says, and gives a slight bow. You are not the person I seek. My condolences. %. Sure. Let's go for it. No, didn't work. Let's try this one. 20%. Success at 20%. You study her cracked porcelain skin, the way her joints are covered by the seams in her clothing, and what once must have been a remarkably pretty face. You recall a fragment of ancient machine history, discovered by your sire in a place called the Wheel of Boz. Automatons like Sylph were created in many different shapes to please their owners. No two alike, all handcrafted and unique. Only a few survivors were known to the machine minds of Boz, and those went for sale to the highest bidder. It seems likely that Sylph started her life as one of these abandoned constructs, having somehow retained her consciousness despite supposed deactivation. For good or ill, she is now her own person, and from the sound of her inner workings, one with an expiration date. I am Sylph, she states simply, inclining her head toward you with an audible click. I am at your service. I am Sylph, she says. How may I assist you? I am Sylph. Okay, it's going to repeat. That's a bummer. Normal people, barkeep, Tarnash Hobbs. He has a robe. Maybe he's a member of the Order of Truth. This man's brow is creased with worry. He avoids your gaze, his eyes fixed on a point to your left and far away. His trembling, battered fingers pluck at the air. He stares through the chattering customers, the bar, as though he is utterly alone. Stepping closer, you see a thick blue crease running down his throat into the depths of his heavy robes, and orderly rows of azure holes pierce his bony arms from elbow to wrist. "Discord," he says as you approach. "Scarred melody. Too many voices. Hurts." His words stream out one by one in a subdued and continuous monotone, tumbling over each other as if in a blind rush to escape. He does not meet your eyes as you step closer to examine him. Instead, he winces, as though your presence is somehow painful to him. You watch him move and track the twitching of his fingertips. You hear a low, vibrating whistle, though it is not coming from his mouth. "What are you doing here?" "Wayfarers bring me broken Numenera. I repair them for pay. I need to eat," he cries, and you don't think you're the target of his anger. "The wayfarers thank me," he says, swallowing. "They do not know I have remade their Numenera. They do not know they will also be remade." Okay. Can you remake any of my Numenera? Instead of asking to see your belongings, he looks at you for the first time. His pupils are as dark as the space between the stars. "No," he says after a long moment. His eyes flick back to whatever distant, terrible place has so captured his attention. "You're wounded. A broken instrument. He has no use for you." "You didn't even look at my belongings. Do I have anything you can remake?" "No, you are worthy, but broken." This time he doesn't look at you. "What are you staring at?" "The grand hall, the spiral pinned by broken columns, the indivisible roof." He stops with a gasp, and a tear rolls down his dirty cheek. "He tells me not to share our secrets with you. You are not of the choir. You are discord." A cold wind coils down from the rooftop, flicking at his tattered robes. Suddenly, you hear something beneath the flute-like notes in the breeze over the holes in the man's skin. A dry, angry voice speaking the word, "Akar." "Akar? What does that mean?" You may as well have slapped the man. White with shock, he doubles over, clutching at his chest. Beneath the man's agony, you sense otherworldly indignation and ageless despair, deep as oceans. "Great Akar was once the mightiest of cities, and it will rise once more when the choir awakens." His gaze meets yours. "The conductor will reward your curiosity, and allow me to tell you what I have seen. You need only ask." "I wish to know what you've seen." "Before my becoming, I found a pit ringed by stone deep in the Arvern Wood. Broken pillars at the edges. I stepped inside, breathed the dusty air." He pauses, passing a shaking hand over his mouth. "I was lost in the grand hall for days, decades, pillars twisting like hallways, spiraling, the ringing of bells, whirling chandeliers, listening to the song of the lost choir. I was an audience becoming an instrument. Finally I slept, and I woke here, upon the heights." "He took my voice," the man says, his eyes dull and distant. "But my blood sings. I am becoming. I dream. And I remake Numenera for wayfarers so they will become and dream as well. And together, we will go into the forest to the ring where the Grand Hall once stood, and rebuild." I'm assuming I can eventually go back here. I mean, to this place in the forest. He falls silent, eyes wide and wet, as if dreaming of the city that lives in his mind. "What do you think you're becoming?" "An instrument," he says, swaying. "A doorway. Before I remade Numenera, now I wake and find devices the conductor has made for me. He is generous." "Look," he says, smiling and pulling aside his robes to bare his bony chest. Countless devices are embedded in his flesh, looping bloodlessly in and out of his ribs, linked by tubes or wire to an opalescent sphere at the base of his throat. "All right. You said that you dream. What of?" "Proud Akar at its peak," he says, gaze locked on the distant ruins of the city. "Instruments of metal and flesh, ringing the balconies of the grand hall. The conductor, our heir, breathing him in forever. Well, that was pretty. Farewell. Leave me to the harmony. Alright, well, I'm going to go down these steps. I could go back to the Silver Orphans, but I think I'm going to continue on. I want to explore. I want to see new stuff. The reason I would go back to the Silver Orphans is to give this person up, and I actually like Sylph, so I'm not going to do that. So, doing his voice is kind of hard. Next time on Button Down Gaming, I'm going to continue playing this, so come on back and watch me play with myself.